Wood shop. Thank God for wood. I could center on the lathe and I could make the furnace shine. The teacher couldn't make as good a lamp face as mine. My parents came on Parents' Day. They saw my stuff and said, he ain't no Einstein, no, but he's good. Wood shop. Thank God for wood.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yep, good morning. Good morning, John.
We've made it through to Lancaster Coffee Hour number 80.
Soon going to be as old as us.
Yeah, and I've been posting videos of these since number 27 or 28.
Wow.
As a consequence, of course, I had to practically erase everything on my hard drive to make room for the damn things. And then I deleted a whole lot of the background files, but they're all out there someplace. Let me see, what else do I have? I have a bunch of Lancaster Club news. We had a meeting Tuesday night with Keith Louderback doing a demo of finials. Been a great show and tell, and that's all now available. I got it all edited yesterday. So it should all be either appearing on the club website, or if it hasn't already, it will shortly. And it's all, of course, available on my own YouTube channel, which you can find now suddenly by looking up John Kelsey Artisan. That will take you to my channel with all of our videos on there someplace, and a lot of other stuff too. And if you like those videos, you can subscribe to my channel. And I'll tell you what happened. We did the Ellsworth thing a few months ago. I posted that as widely as I could, and it got 250 views. And somebody posted it somewhere, I don't know where. It suddenly got 4,200 views. And that led to some site subscribers and some stuff. So our videos are getting out there as a result of efforts like that. Let's see, it's due season at the Lancaster Club, and most of you guys have ponied up. Anybody who hasn't can mail me a check. My address is in the invitation that comes for this meeting every week, or you can PayPal. And either way, I will soon be sending out receipts in 2022 name badge membership cards. I make dupes of those. I send you one, and the other one stays here. So if you show up at a meeting, you get a name badge to pin on your jacket, because we don't know who you are. There's 70 of us in this club now. Quite a few we've never met in person. So that's what happens when you do this sort of thing every week and just stick with it. It attracts some people, and some of those stay with it, like you all. And I'm very grateful for that. While we're doing credits, as a matter of fact, I want to also acknowledge our club secretary, Barry Price, who's ever present here and always has something to demo and show, and has been a great help and a consultant in setting all this up. And Doug Reeser, our picture wrangler, he's there in the middle of the LAW meeting room screen, sitting beside the camera on a tripod. Doug and Ben Kaufman ran cameras at the last meeting, and every time they run cameras, it gets better and better. It's just like all of them. You learn how to do it slowly and slowly. Likewise, we're continuing to experiment with microphones in this room. And on the advice of our house retired infectious disease doc, Judy Stone, we made a cube fan using 4 furnace filters and a hurricane fan, and it's over there behind Doug. It can turn the air in this room over pretty quick. And we use the filters that the Boffins recommend, so it might even trap viruses. And I do believe all 5 of us in the room here are properly vaxxed and careful people anyhow. But we had 15 in here the other night. It was kind of a crowd. I myself masked, and so did a couple of other people, and others. This is Pennsylvania. People are cowboys. But because it's Pennsylvania, everybody makes their own decision. Let me see. On January 22nd, the club is having a day-long cleanup here of this space. We tried to have it before Christmas, but it's not possible. We have a lot of stuff here, equipment that's in boxes and piles of wood. And we want to sort all that through and decide what we're going to keep and put the rest up for sale. We're trying to set up a workstation here so that someone can come in and practice turn. We have had a couple of requests from new beginning member turners, and we'll be able to accommodate those requests pretty soon. We also are deciding as a club and as a committee forming to get ourselves a good demo lathe. And we don't have enough money in the treasury for that, so we are going to raise funds. No formal plans for that have come out yet, but despite that, $520 has landed in the Lathe Fund in the last 2 days in donations from members. So if any of you are feeling flushed to the tune of $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 and you like what the club is doing and you want to get behind it, throw it at the Lathe Fund. We will be getting a mid-sized lathe, exactly which is not yet fully specified, but we know we want a mid-sized lathe with contemporary DVR, a sliding headstock for the lefties, and a 1 1/4 inch spindle, and 110 preferably, so we don't have to rewire this room. Which we may have to do anyway, because in order to accommodate, we had 15 in the room the other night and 24 or 23, 24 on screen. In order to accommodate that size crowd, we probably are going to need to rearrange this room and move to the wide part. It's an L-shaped room, and we're sitting at one end. If we move to the V of the L, we get twice as much useful nearby space. But that is going to mean another $300 to the electrician to put electrical outlets over there. So it's not a casual decision. It requires some thought and figuring out before we actually do it. And all of that is all what's coming up for this January 22nd cleanup here at the Kaufman Kitchens meeting space. I think that's all the speech I want to make today. Any questions or comments on all that? Okay. Who's got stuff they want to show today? Slam, Mike Brazo, Randy Smith with an announcement. Duxbury, I'm sure, has some stuff. Hi, if you could, 3 you got, yeah, use your raise hand. Then I see you pop up on my screen. That's the best thing if you know where it is. If you don't know where it is, let's figure it out together. If you go down to reactions, there's a tab that says raise hand. Click reactions, you get a reactions tab, and that brings you up to the top of my screen, so I know you've raised your hand, so I can call on you in good order. Since I'm yammering on here today, I'm going to yammer on just a little bit longer. I've also been experimenting a lot with making videos. As you know, most of you have seen a lot of my videos over the past year and a half. And I find I have a tremendous number of pictures that aren't videos. So how do I use pictures and make a little show? So I have an experimental little video about jars, turned wood jars. It's just 5 minutes long. And it uses still photos and voiceover. There's no video in it at all, but it is a video. So if you guys are okay with that, I'm going to show that now as a little step, as a starter for the meeting. Good with it?
Sure.
All right. Try and share screen.
When is a door not a door? When it's a jar. A video slideshow by John Kelsey. 10 years ago, when I resumed lathe work after 35 years away, I made small jars shaped like wooden dolls. I found this pseudo-Amish saffron jar at the flea market in Blue Ball, PA. When I tried to copy it from memory, I made the lid too big and the body not round enough. When I drew the jar, I was surprised to learn that the lid, body, and base were each about the same size. I made a template using classical molding proportions and profiles. It generated a shapely walnut jar. Jars like these begin at the log, bandsawn for color, figure, and manageability. The lathe work begins by turning the block round, tenoning the ends, and parting it into lid and body. Quick gestural drawings help me think about shapes and proportions. The drawings prepare me to turn good shapes at the lathe. These walnut and pear wood jars get on very well together. So the jars got married and they had 3 kids. And the kids brought their flashy friends to the party. You turn the outside, then hollow the body and make a lip for the lid. The moment of truth. How shall we fit this lid? The inset lid plugs into the jar's open mouth. The overset lid fits over the lips of the jar. Grecian urns had inset lids that fit deep into the jar's neck. Heart of pear canister set. Mature pear trees sometimes grow a blood-red line between heartwood and sapwood. This gesture drawing investigates the canister's swelling curves. This marker portrait, made after turning, records what actually happened. Medicine jars replace those nasty drugstore bottles. The pearwood nurse owes a lot to Russian matryoshkas. She has 2 internal spaces for pills. And hidden under her skirts, a pocket pill box for the daily dose. I'd rather turn freehand, but anything that's going to fit has to be worked out in advance. Here's a set of 8 medicine jars made of cherry, walnut, catalox, pearwood, and cocobolo. When I get shapes that I like, I usually make a measured drawing after turning, a record for making another. Stash jars made of cherry, pear, and mulberry can hold backgammon checkers, or maybe rolls of cash. Here's a pearwood sake set, jar, cup, and lid. This cocobolo sake set has 3 stacking cups. This tall jar holds the pieces for a magnetic tetrahedron. Here's Blimpie, my big fat jar of colored markers. Here's 3 big candy jars finished 3 different ways. Rapid gesture drawings help explore shapes before committing anything to wood. Rough-turned pearwood jars need to sit for a while to stabilize before final turning. Final turning refines the shapes before sanding and finishing with tung oil varnish. These jars are big enough to become cremation urns.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.
Okay, how do I unhit this share? Let me see. How was that?
Outstanding.
Very good.
Thank you, John.
What software did you use to do that, John?
I can't hear you.
What software did you use to do that?
iMovie.
I'm sorry?
iMovie.
Can you hear me?
iMovie.
Have I got sound issues? Yeah, I'm using iMovie to edit, and I used iMovie to put that together. Almost everything we do is done in iMovie. It's a little clunky for some things, but it basically works.
Yeah, I find iMovie seems to create very large files compared to other things, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't use any other things, so I got no comparison. It offers a choice of resolutions, but really with anything that comes through Zoom, it's going to default to the lowest resolution. And the recording, I mean, I'm seeing a pretty clear screen here with 30 screens, but the recording, they may fuzz out. It's really hard. You can't know in advance, and it's a little bit unpredictable. I'd like to get better control of that. Bowman, there were some fades and dissolves in that. Did they come through okay, or did it not work?
No, they were fine, and they didn't pixelate either. So I think your dissolves worked okay. I didn't even think about it. It's good you asked. So that's a good sign.
Well, that's the difference between doing it with still pictures and a video picture. The signal is able to stabilize the still picture. It doesn't have to keep fading in and out with a moving picture.
Right.
It's a whole lot easier on the whole setup. The other thing I learned from somebody, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about this, is you can get around a bunch of Zoom hiccups by bringing a laptop, play the video from the laptop, and take that directly into the 8-dem, into the video switcher, and bypass Zoom that way. Bypass share screen. It just shows up as a window that spotlight. I don't know if you have any relevant experience or advice on that. Strikes me as an extra complexity that I don't really want to go to if I don't have to. So it's good to know if that worked. And I think for me, that's a pretty fluid technique. Put together a slideshow and write short scripts and then time them all so the scripts get done and put the strings together very nicely.
The easier way, which is more difficult if you're a voiceover, is to just build a sequence of still images and use QuickTime Movie to create a movie out of it and just tell it the duration you want. So it's a consistent duration, dissolves it, but then you can't lay a voiceover on top of it because it's consistent. So
yeah, the voiceover is critical for the kind of things I'm trying to do. Yeah, it might
absolutely.
not be so for everybody.
Can you edit a QuickTime Movie in iMovie?
Yes, you can. Sure.
So you can do. So you can do what you're talking about, Jim, and then import it into iMovie and put the voiceover afterwards.
You could, but you the timing is the question. Like one of John's comments might be 3 seconds, and the second one 2, and the QuickTime Movie is going to be all whatever you set the duration for each one. So I think John's doing the best world choices in the world we're dealing in. So yeah,
Trying to figure it out. Any other comments on that?
By the way, John, it was a very nice presentation. Did you do all of those?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 2018, 2019. Yeah, those are all my jars, except for the canopic jar and the Egyptian Grecian urn. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, the variety surprised me or pleased me or whatever. So.
Well, I did about a 2-year investigation of jars, and the reason I got to use the still pictures is I don't want to do it again. You know, I don't want to set up and make video now and try and retrace. So I'm trying to find a way to maximize the video archive that I have, or the photo archive that I have. You know.
Speaking of which, I was thinking this week when I was out in my shop that you used to be doing videos of guys' shops and their wood piles, and I miss them. You did them early on. I miss seeing that. So
the reason we stopped doing that is one guy we went and visited came down with COVID the day after we were there, and it was like, not a good idea.
Ooh.
Woo. Here lies John. He died from COVID while having his shop photographed. So.
Yeah, well, he didn't die. He's back at the club, but it made me kind of wary of shop visits right now. And I'd like to do it again. It's a lot of fun. And summertime is easier. You can have all the doors open. Yeah. I noticed on the screen Malcolm Zander has joined us today and has his hand up. I'm going to spotlight him in a minute. Malcolm is an old friend of mine and a leader of clubs in the Ottawa, Canada area, and an expert on piercing. If you follow piercing work on the AAW book articles and things, you'll find Malcolm's work all over it. He's developing a demo that he wants to present to clubs. And like several other old timers around here, they've come to our club to say, can we try our demo out in here and get some feedback from you guys? Because you guys are known to be a good demo audience. And we say, sure, free demo. Hey, what the hell? If we were buying it in, it would be, whatever. So we're grateful for Malcolm for the offer. He's going to do his demo on the 16th. That's next Thursday at 10 in the morning. It's going to be a special 2-hour coffee hour, and it will be recorded and available online for a couple of weeks. It'll probably be a video, and we'll get the link from that from Malcolm. We're collaborating on how to do this. I asked him to show up today, and I'm glad to see him here, and I'm going to give him the screen in a sec to introduce himself. I just want to say also that I have 2 handouts from Malcolm that are going to go out with the invitation for next week, so that you'll have the handouts in advance of the workshop. And with that, Malcolm, would you like the screen for a couple minutes?
Well,
yeah?
Okay.
All right, there's Malcolm.
Hi, folks. Thank you for inviting me. I'm supposed to have something for show and tell, so I did bring a couple of items, and I'm not quite sure how these are going to show up through my iMac camera, but I don't have a separate camera, so I'll talk about mice. So here is, can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold it up a little higher. Hold it
The
up a
view
little
is
higher.
fine.
That's perfect.
All right. This is my first mouse. There was a lot wrong with it. It was a prototype. The piercing was crude.
Lift it a little higher, Malcolm, please.
It
You're
has a
there.
very, very square back end of it. But as I say, it was a prototype. So I subsequently made more. And here is a more recent one. Can you see that okay? I can't see what's on the screen.
Yeah, lift it up a little. You can probably do without the white card. Just take the card away.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see that's better. Now you can see what we're seeing. We see you and we see the mouse. Very nice.
Okay. So this is made of pink ivory. It has a sterling silver ear stud, so I'm not quite sure what gender it is. The whiskers are made out of glass fiber. And you can see the dimensions compared with my hand. So there we are. There's a couple of mice. We'll go back to the original one. You can see it's pretty crude in comparison. The ears are not added on there. They are carved proud. They are part of the wood.
So you're going to show us how you do all that, are you?
Yes, I thought you might ask that question. So let me share my screen. All right. Is that filling your screen, or can I drag it to fill the screen a bit?
You can drag it to fill the screen, and so can I.
Or if I put full screen, will that screw things up?
No,
That's too big.
Let me try.
Okay.
No, I can't do that. All right, I can drag it.
How's that?
Is that okay?
That's better.
We're seeing half. Drag it over there. There you almost
There you go.
There we are. Okay, so this is turned between centers, or rather between my tailstock and my wonderful one-way collet jaws, which I really love because I can put a tenon in these, ranging from 1.5 inch diameter down to 1/2 inch diameter. And the beauty of these collet jaws is it enables you to get around the back of a piece if the back of that is going to be small and fine. Otherwise, if you use a standard chuck with a standard tenon minimum of about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, you end up with a great big clunky foot and you can't do much about it. So the beauty of these collet jaws here, the tenon on the end of this piece of wood, it's about the size of this, maybe slightly smaller. So what I'll do is I've turned a rough mouse form here, and I'm going to cut it in two and hollow out the two halves. Okay, so with my parting tool, I have made a part. And here is the front half. You can see that okay?
Now we can.
Yeah. Yes.
I have taken an Arbortech, and you can see it was damn blunt, so it's burned the wood. But what I have done is I undercut the ears in the previous one, and I have sculpted away the remainder of this, which was flush with the ears all the way around, except for a pair of ears on the other side. Okay. So here we are. And then I hollow this out to a thickness of 1 to 2 millimeters, about 1.5 millimeters. Okay, and the ears at this point are still pretty crude. They've got to be refined. Okay, so here it is hollowed out. I use the one-way captured boring bar system. And there's a light shining into it, which is why it looks transparent, because this is all down now to about 1.5 millimeters thickness. This is the front of the mouse. Okay. And I reverse this onto one of my homemade vacuum chuck mandrels. and I tidy up this end of it here, all right? So I've left a little piece on the end which fits that tailstock because I'm going to need that later. This is the front half of the mouse. Back half, I do the same thing. I hollow this out, again to the same kind of thickness. And I keep this in the chuck, and I bring up the previous half, and you can see why I retained this here, because now I can line it all up. You can see the grain is even lined up, and I'm going to glue these two halves together. So I will then have a completely hollow form, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it lengthwise horizontally after gluing these two pieces together, and I will have two mice. So here I run CA glue around this. CA glue, as you may know, is not very archival, but on the inside I can put some epoxy, and I've never had a problem with these things breaking. Okay, so I have it together now. Reverse it, and I clean up this big tenon on the back. Here we are here. And I cut it in two horizontally, and here are the two mice. You can see the join. So that's how it's made. And then, of course, I pierce it.
There you go.
Simple.
Yeah. And you're going to show us all about the piercing when you come on next week. Is that right?
Well, you'll have to wait till next week for that.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. Any questions for Malcolm? I'm going to take the spotlight off you so we can get back to gallery view here.
Very nice. Cut that in half.
Yes, how to cut it in half. The first time I did this, my friend, I took it to the bandsaw, and I never found the pieces. Never found the pieces. So that was one lesson. What I did subsequently do and have done ever since is I use my NSK piercing tool, and I simply draw a line around it and run the tool around it, and then tidy up the edges. You can just put it on a sheet of sandpaper and move it around a bit, flattens it out.
Did you
So
try
that's
with
how it's cut now.
Did you try with a real sharp little Japanese Suzuki?
I have one, but it's much easier to do it with the piercing tool. Much easier.
I think I'd find it easier with the handsaw, but that's me.
Well, Malcolm,
Yeah.
I'm very anxious to see your piercing technique. I tried my hand at an earring holder for my daughter last year and found out that that's pretty difficult to do, but it was fun. So I'm looking forward to watching your presentation.
Well, thank you. It is fun, but it's not difficult. You just need good hands.
Might I add that starting out with a piece that's only 1.5 millimeters thick also makes the piercing somewhat easier, does it not?
I didn't quite get the question. Is it hard?
I said, does it not help that your piercing starts out as 1.5 millimeters thick?
Well, that's right. And it is critical. I have two tools. I have a standard dental tool handpiece, which doesn't have much torque, and it only goes through about maximum of 2 millimeters. And the other one I have is the NSK Presto, which most people prefer to use. That has more torque, and you can go through maybe 3 millimeters without running into trouble. But
You're up to your demo now, Malcolm. I'm going to suggest we hold on this level of conversation for when we get the whole dose next week.
For those who don't know, the 1.5 millimeters is 0.06 inches.
yeah, I don't think in inches. The rest of the world doesn't either. But millimeters are a lot easier. Try and measure 15/34 of an inch or what have you. It's ridiculous.
I've got a question. Have you ever had problems with gluing the two halves together? Don't they move a little bit once they are hollowed out so that you get nice joint? Is that a problem, or is that
that's a good question. That's a good question. No, I glue them together the moment I have hollowed out the back end of it, and because it's end grain, there is not much distortion. And I start, of course, with very dry wood. If I had started with cross grain, well, then you might have a problem because you can get some distortion. But with end grain, they're both from the same piece of wood. They're the same dryness, and I haven't had an issue there. No.
They're also not very big. There's not much movement.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I agree with you concerning the millimeters. It makes life much easier to use them.
One other point in response to the other question is that in piercing, the beauty of it is that you can see through it. And that gives the impression of fineness and laciness. But that only looks that way if you can see right through it. Now, imagine if you had a piece of a mouse, shall we say, which was 1/8 of an inch thick. And I pierce it with a series of holes, just straight holes, which were only 1 millimeter in diameter. As you look directly at that hole, you will see through it. But if you look at through any other angle, it will close off because of the thickness of the wood. Okay, so the only way to make something of that thickness lacier is to have a larger hole. So that means that for small objects where I want to make small holes, you have to have very thin wood, because otherwise, if you look at it from the side, those holes will close off and you won't be able to see through it. And similarly, for a large object, you can, but you have to make a larger hole. I could give you one example. I could share my screen here.
This is just a tease for next week. We'll see all this in great detail.
This one here, can you see this?
Sure.
Yes.
This is 15 inches across.
Wow.
So it still looks lacy because I can see through these holes, but they are large holes. So the larger the piece, if you want it to look lacy, the larger the holes you can get away with. Okay.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. I'm going to ask you guys to sit on the rest of your questions for next week, and we'll have 2 hours to hear from Malcolm and see everything, learn and get all of his secrets out of it. And with that, I'm going to now go to the gallery. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah. I'm going to go to people who don't usually share. Alan Miller, we haven't heard from you in a while. You ready to go?
I got myself mixed up. I really thought that Tuesday night we were going to do Christmas ornaments, and then, yeah, Keith did it. He did a great job, and I appreciated that. This is the one that I did last year. This is the one that I'm working, that I've done for this year. And this one is hollowed. It does not have the golden mean coming down through here. I'm more in the center there, but I took that off of that basic idea off of one that I found online, which I happen to like anyway. So I'm thinking I might try and do 10 or 12 of those to give away. That might be a fool's errand. I did hollow the ball. As Keith told us on, or I think Doug also made the comment, when you're drilling that ball, you don't drill the whole way through. And I found out yesterday exactly why. If you don't have enough material there, it twists off very easily. The other thing I would mention, I think a couple of weeks ago, I showed my one hollowing tool that I had made. that was working fairly well, but it needed a companion. And so I did the straight one to go along with it. And those two seem to be working very well for hollowing out bowls. So that's it for today.
Well, I got one comment, Alan.
Yes.
If you want to actually get good at it, go ahead and make 12. It's really the only way.
Right.
And by around number 10, you'll start to understand what you're doing.
Yes, understand.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Alan? Questions, comments? No? Okay. I'm going to go to Bill Tatkowski. What do you got, Bill?
Oh, okay. What I got is the same thing what Alan just showed, but I watched Keith's video last night, and I enjoyed that very much. So I thought I would show you. This is a very small ornament, and you can see here. Oh, let me get this. Where am I at here? I'm too close.
Closer to your
yeah,
body.
okay.
Coming closer.
Okay, you see this, you can get these from the dollar store as a whisk. I found out they're spring steel. They're of very good diameter, small diameter. And I put these up on a shelf, you know, or when I give them away, you know, that's so people can display them, not just do them on a tree. But this is thin, it's hollowed. And what I did just to have some fun inside, let's see if I can get it out. Now it's not going to come out. Bear with me for a second. There's another little, there it is. Okay, this is pretty tiny, but it's another little bulb. Now or a ball, but I didn't hollow this one out. but I just did that just because it was hollow inside. You know, hollow inside, and just to have some fun with it. But I made a bunch of these, and you know, they're pretty cool. But Keith did a wonderful job. I liked his sketching, drawings, and that just sits well with me, you know, when I see that. So, but yeah, that's what it is, and it's. I make the other one's a lot bigger. I mean, more like Keith's size, but this is just a little tiny one. So
Question,
that's
Bill.
it. Yeah.
Question, Alan here. You talked about that holder, a spring steel whisk. I'm not quite sure what that would be.
No, it's like a kitchen whisk.
Oh,
you know, when you're
gotcha.
whisking.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have a bend on them, and you can build up on that, but they will bend, and if you're careful, slowly, you don't have to heat them, but they'll take a nice shape.
Okay.
And they're pretty good. You can glue them in, you know, a tiny hole, and you know, it works very well. Yep, that's it.
Bill and Alan, I've got a question for both of you. About how much time do you spend on just one ornament? Just a ballpark.
Oh, with this? Oh, I don't know, maybe 2 hours or so. I don't know, putzing with it. I enjoy when I'm turning. I'm not in a hurry, and you know, it's an enjoyable process. So
I would say something similar. Now, since I'm trying to do production, why I'm trying to cut all my blanks and hollow out all the balls at the same time. So, but yeah, I'm still in the 2 hour range.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what I would do instead of dicking around with hollowing a little 2-inch ball. I would do basically what Malcolm did. I would turn 2 shallow bowls joined at the equator and then burn 3 rings in it to disguise the join. And I would have a hollow ornament that I could be finished with before you got your hole drilled.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd also ask Alan to keep track of his time and see how long it takes him to do the 12th one as opposed to the first one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that will make a big difference.
I'm sure that would make a difference. Absolutely.
Bill, what's your wife say when the whisk disappeared from the kitchen?
Where did it go? She knows. Yeah.
Is Kathy there? Kathy, you there? Wandered off screen. She got her hand up. I'll come back to her. Brazos wandered off too. Chalikian, you're there, right?
Yes,
What do you
yes,
got?
I'm here. I have something to show, and actually I got more questions than show. This is a piece of holly that a friend was trimming his holly tree, actually took it down. And so I took a piece. And so this is still wet. It's about 24%. And there's a little break in the bark there. Now, at another show and tell that I had, you all suggested about making a defect into a plus. So, I mean, my one thought is to just take a file, let's see if I can, and file that, round it out, and just kind of clean it up. And I was just wondering if anybody had any other suggestions for what to do on that.
I would do exactly that, or else I'd do nothing. Leave it exactly how it is.
No, it's got little striations. Okay.
Why not take the bark off all the way around and leave just the wood natural edge?
All right. Yeah, that's another possibility. All right.
It's not
You have
particularly
the piece that fell off?
I had a catch.
No, do you have the piece that fell off?
No.
No, okay.
No.
What you could do, we discussed that yesterday, is maybe put some color onto that little bit where the bark is missing, or instead of color, maybe metal leaf or gold leaf, just to show it off. That might be an option.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice idea. I was someplace and came across some copper epoxy, which I had never seen. And perhaps I'll do that and add color to that. I can fill that in.
I like the idea of leaving the bark on as opposed to taking it all off. Leave the bark on and color it in as others have suggested.
Yeah, I like the idea of adding some color to it. I mean, it's, you know, I don't know if I'll stain this or not, or just leave it white. And
you could also turn and carve a very small mouse and glue it on that place.
Okay.
Making it
My
into
experience with
make it into a groove and then put a spoon in it. A groove to hang a spoon off of.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking something along those lines also.
my experience with wet holly is that it moves a lot and does tend to crack if you're not careful. So you may want to try and slow down the drying and seal that up. And you may not be done figuring out what you're going to have to do, because that's going to move quite a bit if it's 24% water.
Right.
Bruce,
Okay.
Bruce, you're absolutely right. That's been my experience with holly. It's a loves to crack.
No.
So get it in a paper bag quick.
Okay. Yeah, I've never turned holly, and actually I was thinking of putting it in a microwave to speed up the drying process, but I will do the opposite.
Down to 1/8 of an inch thick, and it'll be fine. It'll move around, but it won't crack.
Right. Just continue thinning it out.
Yeah.
That's the other approach.
All right. Okay. All right. Along those idea of sealing, another question I have a lot of logs. I just purchased this. I see it shows up backwards. This is end grain sealer.
We see it fine.
Okay, end grain sealer, and I bought this from Packard. And one of the things I discovered afterwards is it's a water cleanup, but also they suggest don't use it under 50 degrees. And I've been trying some different things with the logs that I have. I've tried just some latex paint and oil paint, and that didn't really do that well. And then I had some roof cement that I thinned out with kerosene, and I put on a thick coat on some of the logs that I had, and that seemed to work okay. Also helped get rid of some of the roof cement I've had around. And I was just open for suggestions. If anybody has any experience with this end grain sealer, or any other suggestions on how to handle logs that you get.
I paint any exposed wood. I paint with that as soon as I get the log. Keep it wet.
Okay.
First, but if I can jump in, the first thing I do is split them, get the pith out. That's what we do. If you've got the bark on it on one side, leave the bark. That acts as your would be the same as your end grain sealer. Seal the ends and seal about 2 inches on the cut side, on the cut flat side. That's one way. And the other thing is that end grain sealer is not a forever product.
Right.
If you get 6 months out of it, great, type thing. Our club buys end grain sealer in 55-gallon drums, and then we buy jugs and parceling out that way. Nice. Much cheaper way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and the 50 degrees. I have a bucket of it sitting outside in my little wood lot, and whatever the temp is, of course, it doesn't get that cold here, but if you can put it on and it will stay. It's it's not a bad. I do all my rough outs that way. I totally slather the rough out with end grain sealer, and I lose maybe 1 or 2 out of 50, 60, something like that. So,
Earl, a question. I didn't quite catch what you said about the bark. Can you repeat that part, please?
yeah, well, if you've got a log, you cut it in half to get the pith out. That's the main thing. Whatever you do, you got to get that pith out, because that's where it's going to start splitting. And then if you've got bark on it, you leave the bark, because the bark is going to act the same as an end grain sealer would.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've been experimenting with that as well, and I've got some tulip poplar that I've done a lot with. I think I read somewhere, and I've tried this. It's still sitting out in the woods. Instead of cutting the log lengthwise all the way through, I cut all the way through to the pith, and then I stacked them up, and I put that cut part face down so it wouldn't hold any water. Again, I'm still experimenting with that, but the few pieces that I have brought up to turn, they seem to be working fairly well. I don't find tulip poplar to be the best wood that I've worked with, but as far as keeping the checks down, it seems to be working fairly well.
Our club disperses anchor seal as an end grain sealer, which I like the product very well. But several people in the club are taking Elmer's glue and thinning it down. And you can buy Elmer's glue relatively cheaply on like Amazon. And when it's thinned down, it works the same way, and it's a lot cheaper.
Wow, that's interesting.
I've got a question here. I use anchor seal as well, and normally it works fine, but I used it on some still very wet or moist pre-turned bowls, and I had some fungus or mold developing under the anchor seal. Has that happened to someone else as well?
Yeah, black fungus and green fungus, especially on hackberry for some reason.
Hey, John, is the spotlight on somebody? We're not seeing speaker changes.
It's on gallery view right now, I'm hoping.
It's not.
It is now.
It is now.
Now it is. Yes,
Yeah.
now you popped up. Yeah, it was stuck.
Yeah, that happens. It's yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to there's unless there's any more on that that's desperate. There's a fellow, somebody over here whose screen says Kathy, and I don't think he's shown us anything before, and I'd like to see who he is. If you'll unmute yourself, where's he going? Yeah, here he is. What's Bill Davis?
Yeah, it says
Yeah.
Kathy on it.
Yeah,
It does.
Maybe Kathy did this,
well,
but I
maybe-
made we were showing ornaments, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Hey, Merry Christmas if I don't get a chance to say that later. But I made my Christmas ornaments.
nice and big.
Yeah, it's a pretty good size. I like hang them. I have them hanging off the drapes in the living room. And what I did first was turn most of the main shape, and then I split it and chucked this end and then this end, and then worked on the middle, right? So I made a little snowman for the middle. That makes it a Christmas ornament. and then I would put them back together and then work on the outside and then chuck them from the inside and then finish the outsides.
Yeah.
And then I have a nice little finial on the bottom.
Nice stuff.
So,
Yeah, the snowman.
thanks.
Okay,
My little snowman.
that's cute.
I got better at making the proportions up underneath the hat. I think that's the hardest part. And this one's not really that good, but that ain't bad. I don't know whether you can see it or not.
Not real well.
Where's that sun coming from? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Michael Brasso, what do you got?
I was going to show you something I put together on lighting, which we're doing tonight, but we don't have time. Anyway, it appears you've got some new people in ornaments. This is a tool I put together about 15 years ago after seeing Eugene Schlack in Niagara Falls, who's now retired from turning, but had the larger supported tool. So this was made with 1/4-inch cold rolled steel, silver soldered joints, and then the cutter at the angle that Bob, I can't find his name,
Roseanne.
40 degrees or whatever. And it's at a point where I need to replace that cutter. But the other thing on ornament tools is I went to a larger handle. I started out with handles, the small handles and thinner, and my hand would cramp, and I'm having problems with both hands nowadays. But anyway, it's a lot easier on your hands to have a larger handle. This one happens to be some Osage, which I found at a neighbor's tree when the
What's that arm you're holding on to? What's that for? How's that work?
This?
Yeah.
This goes on the tool rest, so the torque is absorbed by the arm.
Does it work?
Oh, absolutely. There's one of the fellows that makes tools in the States, sells one made with round cold rolled steel. It's very simple to do. This was done with the yellow tank on a Bernzomatic torch and some silver solder. You can pick up the sticks with flux, or it's better with some borax flux. But that I have a drawing of that I could send to you. That whole thing, that's about 6 inches from here to here, and this is about 2 inches. And you can hollow an ornament in about 3 minutes with that. It's after you've done them, I've got a mark for the depth, and it's very simple. As someone else says, set them up and do a batch. Do all your globes, do all your finials, do all your tops, and you can fly through them. Eugene used to turn them out in 10 minutes.
Wow.
He was a real production turner. He would make 1,500 tops for a weekend show, Labor Day. in the Niagara Peninsula, and that paid for that with the small stuff, that and seam rippers and stuff like that sold for $5.
Like question on your tool there, the cutting end, is that your cold rolled steel? Is that a carb? What is that?
No, that would be just a high-speed steel that it's a 3/16 square that you buy. I buy them here at Busy Bee, but I forget the name of that supply company.
Okay.
McMaster.
Okay.
And I cut them off now with an angle grinder. I used to break them off in the vise, and it's fairly easy to sharpen now. I have a 180 CBN from Woodturning Wonders, and it's really easy to sharpen the thing, and you hardly lose any of it. Where with the old wheel, I used to knock some off, but it's ground just like a classical scraper. It's probably about 80 degrees, whatever. It's not critical.
Yeah, thank you.
And cuts like crazy.
I like that idea, Mike. I'm going to make some.
Yeah, no, it's really easy. I can send the sketch. I have a scan of it to John, and he can circulate it if you want.
Yeah, do that.
Mike, have you ever tried just epoxying them on, not epoxy, CA glue? CA.
I have not. I've seen that. I would tend to think that there's enough heat generated in hardwood that it might soften it up.
Trent Bosch glues his on that way.
Yeah.
And then just take a torch to pop them off. They just pop right off with a torch.
Yeah. If you have a piece of fire brick, the Bernzomatic with the yellow tank is hot enough, just hot enough. Okay. But I've made up. I used to make them up and sell them at the club for $5, just because it really works. This support makes it entirely manageable when you're doing that hollowing.
Well, for those who want to do learn more about ornaments and different ways of getting a good ornament as well, the November 2019 issue of Woodturning Fundamentals, which you can find on the AAW website, or AAW members, I hope you all are, is entirely devoted to ways of making ornaments. That was the last fundamentals under my editorship. I did 8 of them for a 2-year period, and then, okay, I'm done. But anyway, we got in about a dozen or 15 contributors who each showed some aspect of ornament making, and it's a pretty good little compendium. And as I say, it's out there for free on the AAW website, or free for the downloading. And on that note, we're coming up on 11 o'clock, and I'm going to apologize to you all we didn't get to this week. We won't get to you next week either, because we'll have Malcolm on, but we'll get to you the week after. We will be here December 23rd, and we will also be here on the 30th, I guess it is, of December before New Year.
Can I squeeze in one last question, John, and maybe make an offer as well?
Go for it.
We were talking about the anchor seal. I haven't seen any black mold on mine, but someone said that it only lasts a certain amount of time. Is it safe to say that it's kind of turning funky on the ends? I've got it out in the woods under a tarp, most of it. Is that safe to say when it gets that way, that's used up its useful life? Then I should possibly bring it indoors.
I would say yes. You've got to either that or apply another coat. Some places out here we have obviously it always rains in Seattle, so it's a lot of folk put on 2 coats right off the bat anyway, and so that's I would definitely reseal it if you have to, if you need to do it, or get it roughed down.
Because it's getting kind of cold up here, and someone mentioned temperature as well on that other product, I believe. Now if I put another one on, I won't see that black mold, or is that just something that happens based on when you put it on the first time?
It's probably gonna stay there.
It's in there. You're gonna have to turn it off. It might discolor the wood too. It depends on how porous the wood is.
All right. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I was just wondering. One other thing too, I've got a huge red oak that's coming down in my front yard in the near future. If anybody would like some, let me know, and I'll see if I can get this guy to set some aside, and maybe in my front yard you can pick it up there without traipsing through the yard. But it's a huge red oak, and if anybody needs some, would like some, let me know.
And what part of Lancaster is that in, Bob? What part of the city?
I'm not too far off of Harrisburg Pike. You know where the big medical center is down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too far from there, near just up the hill from a neighborhood called Veranda. So yeah, it's.
So Bob, the
help?
50 degrees is really about letting the material cure and the water come off. It doesn't mean you can't let it sit in temperatures that are below 50 degrees. And I would also say that if you bring the stuff inside and it's still wet and the ends are done, you're probably going to be the most likely to crack it that way. So I thought that Earl had the right suggestion to try and put another coat on, maybe your best bet.
Oh, super. Okay, thank you.
If I can throw in one last comment, just so everybody knows, Anchor Seal comes in two solutions. They have a summer and they have a winter. And if you're, most people, it doesn't matter. We buy the summer all the time out here, and when we dole it out, that sort of thing. And it's a lot cheaper if you got enough folk in your club. We're selling a gallon of Anchor Seal for $22 now. And the shipping and the jugs went up, that sort of thing. Last year and for the previous years before that, it's been $20. So it's really relatively fairly cheap unless you have to buy it from Woodcraft.
Thank you very much.
On that note, everybody, you've whiled away another perfectly good hour with the Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour weekly, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you all.
Thank you, John.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So long, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Shop. Thank God for wood.